Hey guys, I am alive, I am here. I feel like garbage, but we're just going to push on through. So, there's a lot of discourse, a lot of conversation about Stellar Blade, and a lot less about Hellblade 2, and we'll get to that in a minute. And it is kind of interesting that these games are coming out within weeks of each other, but we're really only focusing on Stellar Blade. And then, of course, there's some really strange conversations going on around Senua, the lead protagonist of Hellblade, and we'll get to that in a minute. But let's kind of go over some of this crap that we've been hearing about Stellar Blade from outlets like The Gamer, talking about things like, "You're making me embarrassed to like Stellar Blade." And then, of course, they go on in the article claiming that there's always been plenty of hot women in game and sexy women, and that gamers are just fantasizing too much about her, and it's getting really weird and creepy. You know, the usual crap you'd hear out of The Gamer. This is after IGN France had this article coming out claiming that the director of Stellar Blade has likely never seen or touched a woman in real life, despite the fact that his wife is this beautiful woman that Grumps shared a picture of, and the fact that the model that they used for Eve from Stellar Blade is in fact a real-life human. So after IGN France, or IGN had to print a retraction, you had the editor-in-chief of IGN France over here freaking out, basically claiming that games like Stellar Blade are going to end women's lives. I'm not even kidding. He has that here in the tweets that you can see. And so crap like that is just getting really exhausting. So you had the director of Stellar Blade come out, and he said this about the Western media, about basically it's a Korean looking at the way the Western world works and realizing what he's in for once this game comes out. And so he says, "I know that in the West, game characters have to reflect realistic appearances in many ways, and that many issues like gender and racial diversity are intertwined. However, Stellar Blade is only a cultural and entertainment product. I hope you will keep an eye on this as a fun action game has just been released." I mean, I think it's a very valid way to look at it because he's just trying to release a fun game. And of course, you see tweets like this from this Twitter account, YouTuber Reforge Gaming, saying, is anyone else starting to feel awkward about liking Stellar Blade? The public discourse and perception is becoming a bit weird. And honestly, I think it only gets weird if you make it weird. And unfortunately, so much of what we're seeing from the media attacking this game is causing the pushback that we're getting from gamers themselves. Then you see articles like this that V shared on Twitter, talking about how after the IGN hit piece came out, Korea responded by lecturing the ignorant, educated Westerners about how bigoted and ridiculous they are. And you can see the thumbnail here from, I guess it's Maxim Korea or whatever, talking about educating about the existence of such body shapes in reality. And of course, they have the picture of the actual model Eve from the game. Then we got to go a few years back to Bayonetta when it first came out, and Feminist Frequency's Anita Sarkeesian talking about it. And the funniest part about this entire thing, the reason we're even talking about it, is there's been so much revisionist history in the last few years about how much they love Bayonetta, how much the media loved Nier Automata, and yet the fact is, you go back 10 years and they were all trashing these games.
First, the positive things about the game. She's a single mother, and that's kind of it. So on to the negatives.
Yeah, so then she goes on to rail against this character about how overly sexualized she is and how ridiculous the whole thing is. Basically how it just caters to the male gaze. You see crap like this from Kotaku, where they talked about how the Resident Evil 4 remake, changing Ashley's skirt gives me hope. Also, things like they totally failed Ashley Graham. Resident Evil 4 no longer sexualizing its women is a good thing. So they can't even lie convincingly, because this article here is just from a year ago, when the reality is you go back 10 years and they were all slamming games like Bayonetta, but now they're going to come out and say, "Oh no, Bayonetta was great. What are you talking about?" And so you can even see the proof right here. Mods that were made, and this is from Learning the Law on Twitter, mods that were made to basically have Leon from Resident Evil 4's tramp stamp and G-string, and apparently there's one where he has his willy out the entire game. Those are totally acceptable. People are like, "Oh, I'm here for it. I love it." But if it's a woman, you can't do that. I saw this. This was a funny one back on April 5th. PlayStation Australia tweeted out, "Happy birthday to our beautiful Alloy." And if you don't know, this is the protagonist from the Horizon Forbidden West games. I think that's the title. Don't shoot me. I don't have a PlayStation. I've never played the game, so I don't care. But you can see in this photo, her face got a little fatter in the second game. She looks a little bit more manly. And she's got some weird rosacea sunburn thing going on. I noticed she even has some discoloration on her elbows too. there's this thing in games where there's this hyper-realism versus just making a game aesthetically pleasing, and unfortunately, this is one of those times where it feels like they went for hyper-realism, but then they also made her look like a man. I'm sorry, those eyebrows, the shape of the face, that's a very masculine face. And so this guy on here is freaking out about people in the comments claiming like, oh, these are a bunch of 40-year-old virgins who've never seen a real woman. Again, the never seen a real woman thing. I'm married to a real woman. She doesn't look like a man, okay? I'm just going to say right now. So now we get on to Hellblade 2. And there was this Kotaku article that came out a little while ago where people were talking about how, well, Kotaku was saying, oh, people want shorter games. Don't make it a long game. And I say BS. I didn't play Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice until I think it was last year or the end of 2022. And oh my gosh, I couldn't believe how amazing that game was. I had slept on that game for so long. Amazing game. If you never played Hellblade, go play it. But unfortunately, there is some weird discourse coming out about Hellblade 2 now that it's like a few weeks from coming out. And so the gamer once again decides to dip their toes in the water, and basically they have to compare it to Stellar Blade, mainly for the console war aspect, but also because of the fact that they can get a dig in there at how, well, you know, Stellar Blade is just overly sexualized, and that's why more people are excited about Stellar Blade. I would argue that you also have a lot more marketing and a lot more hype around Stellar Blade just because of the fact that it was kind of caught up in the whole culture war thing. I don't fault anybody for that. It's just a reality. But the thing that I'm kind of bothered by, so if you look at these, like just Google ugly female characters, or I searched it on Twitter, you'll see these montages. In fact, here's a good one I found. Somebody cut the hair off of the Fable female character, and she is legitimately a guy once you take the hair off. And yes, I know the face model is reminiscent of how this person looks, and the face model is actually really pretty in real life, even with like short hair. This just isn't cutting it. This looks like a male version of the face model that they used. But I keep seeing these screenshot composites where they take all these characters, these ugly, like butt ugly, masculine looking women in video games and mashing them together. And tucked away down here in the corner, I've seen this now for like the last 6 months, they keep tucking the Hellblade character Senua down here. My issue with this is the fact that these characters, like for Senua, the face model looks almost identical to her, okay? And in the reality of what the game is, you're playing a Celtic woman trying to avoid Vikings while suffering from a psychotic breakdown and hearing voices. I don't think there's any reason to overly sexualize the character. So again, I don't think we need to compare these two games, but I am kind of tired of people picking on Senua because the game was not woke. I've looked into Ninja Theory, the ones that did the game. As far as I can tell, they don't buy into any of the ESG stuff or any of the DEI stuff. I do realize that they are associated with Xbox Game Studios now, but the reality is the game itself was fantastic, and I have no reason to think the second game is going to be woke or full of DEI or whatever. But I do think it's kind of a weird timing that both these games are coming out so close together. Both have female protagonists, but people are slamming Hellblade 2 for being like, oh, they made her ugly. Nah, dude, she's the face actress. The model looks just like her, and then this is just where they have a girl set in like Dark Ages, Scotland or Ireland, wherever she's from. I don't know. I think it's kind of a weird obsession. Unfortunately, people are looking at every female character and thinking they're all ugly when the reality is maybe there just wasn't a need to over-sexualize her. I don't know. Share your thoughts down below. Let me know what you think about all this. I got kind of irritated. I'm like, guys, stop picking on Senua. She did nothing wrong. The poor girl hasn't hurt anybody. Go play the game. The game's amazing. All right, guys, I'll catch you later. All right, and if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for being here. I do have 2 channels, Minimal Effort Podcast, as well as my gaming channel. I do have a Twitch and Kick for my gaming channel. We do live streams over there occasionally, maybe once a week. And then if you are in the market for a new PC, make sure to check out Meta PCs. Click the link I have down below. Use code TBO at checkout for a special discount. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.